The stars themselves seemed to tremble as the trap closed. The Zyran fleet, once a wall of power, now looked like prey caught in a cage of steel and silence. Their hyperspace drives, the very lifeline of escape, flickered uselessly against invisible chains of interference. No matter how the technicians screamed and worked, the drives refused to answer. It was as if the void itself had been locked against them, and in a way it had. On the bridge of the human warship near Mars, a calm voice broke the silence of the void. The transmission carried across every frequency, clear and undeniable. "This is humanity," the voice said. "No names, no ranks, no introductions, only the voice of a species speaking as one. We tried peace. You chose war. Now you will see what we learned from fighting ourselves for thousands of years." The Zyrans had conquered dozens of races, heard countless cries of resistance, but none like this. The words were not desperate. They were not pleading. They were steady, controlled, and merciless. The silence after the message cut deeper than any weapon. Then humanity's response began. The scarred warship near Mars fired first, its main cannon unleashing another torrent of light that split through the void. A cruiser tried to shield itself, but the beam carved through its armor like paper, leaving molten wreckage spinning helplessly. At the same time, the smaller human vessels that had uncloaked began to strike. Their tactics were sharp, coordinated, and brutal. Instead of firing wildly, they aimed with terrifying precision. Each shot disabled engines, cracked shields, or silenced weapons. It was surgical destruction, the kind of strikes born from centuries of fighting wars not against aliens but against themselves. Admiral Kor shouted orders, his voice a roar across the chaos. "Break their lines! Overwhelm them with fire!" The Zyran fleet responded, weapons blazing, filling the void with fury. Explosions shook the human ships, but they moved with a discipline the aliens did not expect. They fought as if every move had been rehearsed, every sacrifice already measured. One human vessel darted close to a destroyer, dodging blasts that should have torn it apart. Instead of trying to win with pure firepower, it unleashed a swarm of small drones, machines that latched onto the alien ship's hull like insects. In seconds, the destroyer systems went dark, its crew screaming as their ship drifted powerless. The drones retreated, searching for their next victim. Kor watched in horror. "They use weapons we have never seen," he muttered. His officers looked to him for strength, but his golden eyes betrayed fear. The human fleet pressed forward, tightening the noose. For every ship they lost, and they did lose some, they took 2 or 3 Zyrans with them. It was not the numbers that broke the invaders' courage, but the relentlessness. The humans did not fight like prey. They fought like predators who had been waiting for centuries for this moment. Raylar stood frozen on the flagship, his voice barely a whisper. "They studied us. They studied everything. All this time they were preparing." And then, the broadcast came again. This time it was not one voice. It was many. Human voices, thousands of them, layered together, echoing across the stars. A single phrase repeated again and again, translated into the Zyran's tongue by some unseen hand. "You will not conquer us. You will not break us." The sound was like thunder in the minds of the alien crew. The Empire had crushed empires before. They had silenced whole civilizations. But never had a young race spoken with such unity, such defiance. Admiral Kor clenched his fists, forcing his voice steady. "Then we will burn them. Every last one." But even as he said the words, he knew the truth. They were not burning anything. They were being dismantled piece by piece. The nightmare had only just begun, and humanity was the one writing it. The battle raged like a storm across the solar system. For every shot the Zyrans fired, humanity answered with precision, fury, and patience. The void was filled with burning wreckage, fragments of alien ships scattering like sparks in the wind. What had begun as an invasion now twisted into something the Zyrans had never faced before. A slaughter, but not in their favor. Admiral Kor gripped the arm of his throne so tightly that cracks formed in the alloy beneath his claws. He had seen defeat before, but never like this. The enemy was not stronger in numbers. They were not stronger in size. They were stronger in something far more terrifying, their refusal to die. "They should be weak," he hissed. "They should be begging." Yet the truth blazed before his eyes. Humanity was not begging. Humanity was teaching. Another Zyran cruiser lit up with fire as its systems collapsed under a barrage of human drones. The crew tried to eject, but their escape pods were hacked before they launched. locked inside by unseen hands. The humans controlled the battlefield in ways the Empire had never encountered. It was not just weapons. It was knowledge. It was strategy. Admiral! Reller shouted from his post, his golden eyes wide. Our jump drives are still blocked. The jammers are everywhere, satellites, drones, hidden relays. They control the whole system. His voice cracked into something the Xeran crew had never heard from an officer before. Panic. Kor forced his voice steady. Then fight harder. If we cannot escape, we will break through them. He tried to sound unshaken, but even he felt the truth like a knife in his chest. There was no breaking through. The cage was too tight. Human tactics cut deeper with every passing moment. They did not waste shots. They did not boast or broadcast. They struck with silence, with precision, with terrifying calm. When an alien battleship fired, human vessels scattered into coordinated patterns, countering from all sides. When a frigate tried to flank, it found itself ambushed by hidden artillery platforms rising from the dark side of the moon. The humans had prepared every angle, every possibility, every trap. Raylar turned to the Admiral, his voice trembling. They knew us. They studied us. They built this battlefield for us before we even arrived. He swallowed hard, his words barely audible. We thought them children. But they are hunters. They were always hunters. The Admiral did not reply. His silence said enough. A shrill alarm cut through the bridge. The flagship's shields buckled as a colossal beam struck, tearing across its hull. Fires erupted in the lower decks. Crew screamed, scrambling to control the chaos. On the screen, the scarred human warship loomed closer, its cannon glowing again with death. They were waiting. Raylar whispered, almost as if confessing to himself. They were waiting for us to come. The nightmare deepened. Human voices echoed once more across the comms, not taunts, not threats, but a single cold truth. This is our home. You will die here. The Xyrans had faced war for centuries, but never like this. They had brought terror across the stars, but now they tasted it themselves. Every second that passed was another blow to their pride, another strike against their empire's arrogance. Ships were burning, morale collapsing, escape cut off. On the flagship, even Admiral Kor felt the weight pressing on him. For the first time in his long life, the Admiral of the Empire whispered the words he had never spoken before. We are not the nightmare. They are. And in the silence that followed, the crew knew the truth. The hunters had become the hunted. Humanity had shown its teeth. The void was filled with fire and ruin. Wreckage drifted across the solar system. Silent reminders of a fleet that had once entered with pride and now fought only to survive. The Xyran Empire's banner, once feared across 100 worlds, now burned among the stars of a system they had called weak. On the flagship, Admiral Kor's face was pale beneath the golden glow of his eyes. The bridge shook as explosions rippled through the ship's hull. Crew members shouted reports, their voices edged with panic. Shields collapsing. Engines failing. The humans... Another blast rocked the deck, silencing him. In the chaos, Kor realized the truth. They were not losing a battle. They were losing a war. The first war humanity had ever fought beyond their world. And the Empire would remember this shame forever. The scarred human warship advanced, its cannon glowing once more. Every alien eye turned to it, watching death charge in its heart. This was the same vessel they had mocked. The same vessel they had believed could not exist. Now it was the nightmare that haunted their last moments. Kor stood tall, forcing dignity into his voice. If we must fall, then let us fall as warriors. He gave the final command to his crew. Fight until nothing remains. But the crew no longer moved with confidence. Their eyes were wide, their hands trembling. They were soldiers who had seen the impossible. And in their silence, they accepted what was to come. The human ship fired. The beam pierced the flagship's shields as if they were air, carving straight through the core. Alarms screamed. Fires erupted across the decks. Systems collapsed one by one. The mighty vessel of the Empire, its pride and strength, split open against the cold void. The bridge filled with smoke and the dying glow of sparks. Admiral Kor's last sight was the scarred human warship standing unbroken in the dark. Then the flagship was gone, torn apart in an explosion that echoed like thunder through the stars. The remaining Xyran ships faltered. Without their leader, they broke. Some tried to fight, their weapons blazing wildly, but most turned to flee. Yet the humans gave them no escape. The jammers still locked the system. The cage was closed. Ship after ship fell, struck down by precision fire, by drones, by weapons that the aliens could not understand. In minutes, what had once been a proud invasion force was reduced to scattered wreckage and drifting corpses. At last, silence returned to the system. The humans did not cheer. They did not celebrate. They simply watched as the last alien survivors limped away, their broken ships sparking against the void. For those few who managed to escape, one message followed them, burned into every frequency. This is only our home. Next time you come, we will not wait here. We will be waiting out there. Across the galaxy, whispers would spread. Whispers of a species that looked weak yet fought like demons. Whispers of a world that destroyed an empire's fleet on its first encounter. Whispers of humanity. And in the silence of space, the humans turned their eyes outward. The trap had worked. The nightmare had begun. And now the galaxy would never forget that humanity was not prey at all. Humanity was the predator. A ship had appeared. Not from hyperspace. Not from anywhere they could trace. It had simply been there, hidden, waiting. It was a warship, larger than the human stations, larger even than some Xeran frigates. Its surface was scarred, its armor patched. Yet the energy reading it gave off was stronger than anything the fleet had detected so far. Its weapons glowed faintly, not primitive rockets, but something else, something powerful. The crew fell silent. Relar stared at the screen, his throat dry. "That is human," he whispered. No one answered. The ship drifted slowly, like an ancient beast waking from slumber. Its guns remained quiet, but its presence alone radiated menace. Admiral Kor leaned forward, his eyes hard. "So, they hide their claws. Good. Now we see their true nature." He gave the order with a voice like ice. "Destroy it." The fleet began to turn, cannons powering up. Energy filled the void as targeting systems locked on the mysterious warship near Mars. Yet the human vessel did not retreat. It did not run. Instead, it tilted slightly, its scarred hull reflecting the distant sun, and for the first time, the aliens felt a chill creep into their bones. In the silence before the first shot, a thought whispered across every alien mind. Perhaps they had not found prey at all. Perhaps they had found something else entirely. And still, Earth gave no answer. The alien fleet stretched across the void like a wall of steel, each vessel bristling with weapons. Their formation was precise, deadly, and confident. On the flagship, Admiral Kor stood with arms folded, his expression carved from stone. The humans had remained silent after their demand for surrender. Silence was dangerous, but to the Admiral it was also insulting. "They think they can ignore us," he growled. "We will remind them of their place." He gave the order. A smaller destroyer peeled away from the formation and angled toward Earth's orbit. Its cannons charged, glowing with violent light. In moments it fired on one of Earth's orbital satellites. The tiny human machine shattered in an instant, exploding into sparks. The aliens laughed. Then, to make their warning louder, the destroyer targeted a larger structure, a human space station filled with people. The beam tore through the fragile metal and the station broke apart, burning brightly against the stars. For the aliens, it was nothing more than a message. For humanity, it was murder. The fleet waited for Earth's response. Still nothing. No retaliation. No message. No sign of panic. Just silence. The quiet pressed against the crew like a weight.
"Why do they not scream?"
one officer asked under his breath. Why do they not beg? Admiral Kor's eyes narrowed. Perhaps they are more foolish than I thought. Yet doubt whispered inside his chest. He had fought many species. He knew silence was rarely empty. Silence was a choice. Then the sensors picked up movement. Near Mars, far from Earth's orbit, something shifted. A single ship appeared on the scans, large, heavily armored, and unlike anything the Xyrans had ever catalogued from this system. Its hull was old and battered, scarred with lines that spoke of many battles. Yet the power readings pulsing from it were clear. This ship was dangerous. The crew whispered nervously. "Impossible," one officer muttered. "They cannot build something like this. Their technology is primitive." But the readings did not lie. The ship was real. It had been hiding, waiting. Now it drifted into view like a predator stepping out of the shadows. Admiral Kor leaned forward. His voice was sharp as a blade. "Target it. Destroy it before it strikes." Cannons across the fleet lit up, focusing on the lone human warship. Energy charges built like thunder before a storm. Then the first volley erupted. Beams of light crossed the void, slamming into the human vessel. Explosions tore across its hull. The ship rocked violently, its armor breaking, its scars deepening. Smoke trailed into space, the aliens cheered. To them, it looked like victory. But their celebration ended quickly. The human ship steadied itself. Its engines flared, pushing it forward instead of retreating. Slowly, its largest weapon powered up. The energy spike was so massive it rattled the sensors. Then, with a flash brighter than the sun, it fired. The beam cut through the void like a blade. 3 Xeran ships vanished in an instant, torn apart and left as drifting wreckage. The cheering turned into screams of shock. On the bridge of the flagship, silence returned, heavier than before. Admiral Kor's face froze as the truth sank in. This was no primitive weapon. This was something worse. Something they had not expected. The human warship turned its scarred hull toward the fleet. Its guns glowed again, not in panic, not in desperation, but with patience, like a predator taking aim. Earth's silence was no longer the silence of weakness. It was the silence of a hunter waiting for the right moment to strike. For the first time in centuries, Admiral Kor felt fear crawl into his chest. He looked at Captain Raylar and spoke softly, almost to himself. "This is no easy conquest. We have awakened something dangerous." And far below, on the blue planet, humanity remained quiet. They had given no speeches, no cries for help. Their only answer was that single warship, scarred but alive, standing against the Empire's fleet. The message was clear without words. Humanity would not kneel. The void between Earth and Mars burned with light. The Xyran fleet poured volley after volley into the lone human warship. Explosions tore across its battered hull. Armor cracked. Fire spilled into the dark. Yet the ship refused to fall. Each strike that should have ended it was met with silence, followed by another steady movement forward. The aliens could not understand it. "It is already broken," one officer cried. "Why will it not die?" Admiral Kor's jaw tightened as he studied the displays. Every species had weaknesses, yet this vessel clung to existence with something more than technology. It clung with will. "Continue firing," he ordered. "I want it reduced to dust." His words carried confidence, but his eyes betrayed something else. Doubt. He had seen prey fight before, but never like this. Then the human ship answered. Its main cannon charged again, the glow building until the entire fleet's sensors screamed warnings. Kor shouted for evasive action, but too late. Another beam tore across space, slicing through 2 destroyers and crippling a carrier. Ships that had laughed moments ago now spun helplessly, their hulls shredded, the bridge filled with alarm sirens and the acrid smell of overheated systems. "They hide weapons far beyond their level," Raylar whispered, his voice tight with fear.
How? How could such a young species create this?
No one answered. The question itself felt dangerous, but the truth was worse than they imagined. The humans had not created that warship in haste. It was old, its scars deep. It had been waiting for this day. The silence of Earth was no accident. It was part of the trap. Suddenly, a new reading flashed across the displays. Behind the fleet, near the asteroid belt, 3 more energy signatures appeared, human warships uncloaked, sliding out of the shadows like wolves surrounding their prey, smaller than the first but armed and waiting. The crew froze, horror settling into their bones. "They surrounded us," one officer gasped. "They knew we were coming." Admiral Kor slammed his fist against the command throne. "No, it cannot be. They are too primitive." His words stopped as more signatures lit up. Near the orbit of Venus, near the shadows of the outer moons, everywhere the fleet looked, faint echoes of hidden ships blinked alive. Humanity had not been silent out of weakness. Humanity had been patient, building a cage. On Earth, the first broadcast finally arrived. It was not a plea for mercy, not a surrender, but a single message in clear, calm tones. "We tried peace. You chose war. Now you will see what humanity learned from fighting itself for centuries." The voice was cold, certain. It carried no fear. The Xyran bridge went silent. For the first time, the prey had spoken. And it was not the voice of prey at all. Kor gave the only order he could. "Break the cage." "Retreat!" The fleet scrambled, engines burning as they tried to form escape vectors. But their hyperspace drives flickered. Warnings flashed red across every ship. Systems jammed. Frequencies scrambled. The Xyran's most trusted escape route was gone. Someone, no, the humans, had blocked them. The human warship near Mars moved again, its engines glowing as it advanced. The smaller hidden ships followed, tightening the noose. Every Ziran officer on the bridge now understood the truth. The trap was sprung, and they were inside it. Rilar's voice cracked as he whispered, "We are not the hunters here." His words hung in the air, heavy as stone. On the far side of the moon, where their first probes had vanished, something vast shifted in the shadows. Another signal spiked. A larger ship, even greater than the scarred vessel near Mars. Its form emerged slowly, like a nightmare rising from the dark. The aliens had thought humanity was blind. Instead, humanity had been watching them from the start. And now, with nowhere to run, the nightmare began in earnest. The deep silence of space stretched forever, broken only by the steady hum of alien engines. Captain Rilar sat inside the command throne of the Ziran scout cruiser, his golden eyes fixed on the holographic display. At last, after decades of searching, their probes had discovered something unusual. An active world at the edge of a quiet spiral arm. A world glowing with cities, signals, and technology. The world was called Earth. Rilar leaned forward, studying the weak transmissions that spilled from the blue planet. Music, voices, strange shows, old data bouncing into the void. To him and his crew it looked primitive. He gave a low laugh and the bridge crew followed. The humans were noisy, careless, and small. The recordings showed their machines, cars on roads, planes in the sky, rockets that looked like children's toys compared to Ziran warships. "They are nothing," Rilar said, his voice echoing through the deck. "This will be easy," the crew agreed. The Ziran Empire had crushed stronger races before. They had battled machines that spanned moons, burned fleets that filled whole systems, and yet here was a young world with no true starships. For the Zirans, Earth looked like a prize left unguarded, but something felt strange. Their first probe had vanished. It had entered orbit around the Earth's moon, and then nothing, no signal, no wreckage, no trace. Rilar dismissed it as a malfunction, but deep inside he felt an itch of unease. Machines rarely failed without reason. As the cruiser moved closer, the human's world revealed itself in sharper detail. Oceans shimmered under sunlight. Clouds drifted slowly. Continents glowed with millions of tiny lights. "They are busy," one officer remarked. "So many lights, so much movement, yet no ships to guard their skies." Another laughed, calling them children who did not know the universe was watching. The sensors scanned deeper, showing space stations in low orbit, tiny satellites circling endlessly, weak transmissions carried across the system. All of it looked clumsy, outdated. "This species fights each other more than they prepare for real threats," Rilar said. "Their wars are small, their weapons old. They are divided, but soon they will kneel." He ordered the ship's recorder to collect more data. Images flickered. Cities filled with people, soldiers marching, jets flying, ships sailing. Humanity looked too noisy, too chaotic. Yet again, something tugged at the edge of the sensors. Signals layered under the normal ones. Strange echoes bouncing from the far side of the moon. The ship's computer called it interference, but one young officer frowned. "It is not natural," he whispered. "Something is hidden there." Rilar snapped at him, commanding silence. The Zirans were hunters, not warriors. "There is nothing here but prey," he said. But in the quiet moments, he remembered old warnings. Not all prey was weak. Sometimes prey wore a mask, waiting for the hunter to draw close. He pushed the thought away. Hours passed as the cruiser drifted through the system. They detected Mars, lifeless and red. They scanned the asteroid belt, nothing but rocks. All seemed as expected. Then the second probe, launched into Earth orbit, also disappeared. No explosion, no damage, no signal. Just silence. Rilar's jaw tightened. 2 probes lost. 2 machines swallowed by the shadows around Earth. The crew grew uneasy now, exchanging worried glances. Still, the captain could not show fear. He stood tall and ordered a full broadcast toward the planet. "Send the warning," he commanded. A booming transmission was released. "Humans of Earth, you are observed by the Ziran Empire. You will submit, or you will be destroyed." The crew waited for a reply. Static filled the speakers. Minutes passed. Then hours. No answer came. Rilar's patience wore thin. In his mind, this silence was arrogance. The humans dared ignore the voice of the Ziran Empire. He felt anger rising. "They are fools," he growled. "We will show them our power." The crew cheered, but their voices were nervous now. The missing probe still haunted them. The cruiser drifted closer, passing near the dark side of the moon. Shadows stretched across craters, endless and deep. The ship's sensors glitched again, strange echoes bouncing back. The officer who had spoken earlier whispered once more, "Something is there hiding. I can feel it." His words were cut short as the lights on the bridge flickered. For a moment, every screen went black. Alarms whispered before returning to silence. The crew looked around unsettled. Rilar clenched his fists. He ordered the scanners to run at full power. Energy pulsed through the systems. The moon lit up on their displays, each crater and mountain drawn in cold detail. Yet in the deepest shadows nothing appeared. Only black, too black, almost deliberate. As if something was bending the scans away. "Captain," another voice called. Something moved. All eyes turned to the screen. A small flash had appeared, then vanished near the surface of the moon. Not a natural movement. Too fast, too clean. The crew held their breath. Reller stared at the empty space, heart beating louder. The flash was gone. Nothing remained. For the first time, the bridge was silent. No laughter, no mocking, just silence. Then the captain spoke. "Perhaps the prey is not as weak as it looks." His voice was calm, but deep inside he felt the first spark of fear. The crew waited, expecting orders to pull back. Instead, Rilar lifted his chin. "We will continue. We will test them." He could not retreat, not now, not with the Empire watching. Pride forced him forward. Even as shadows gathered around their path, the cruiser turned, setting course for Earth orbit, its engines burning bright. Behind them, the dark side of the moon remained still, silent and watching. And then, far below, on the blue planet, humanity listened. They had heard the alien warning. They had seen the probes vanish. They were waiting. Not with fear, but with patience. Something old, something hidden, stirred in the void. Something the aliens had not expected to find. The Zyrans thought they were the hunters. But in the darkness, another hunter had already prepared its trap. The game had begun, and the aliens did not even know it yet. The Ziran cruiser did not return to the Empire alone. Days later, an entire fleet of warships slid into the system, their black hulls glowing faintly against the light of distant stars. 20 ships strong, each one larger and deadlier than the human satellites and stations they had scanned. The fleet moved with slow confidence, drifting into formation near the orbit of Jupiter before splitting into smaller wings. To the aliens, this was not a battle, but a hunt. Captain Rilar stood tall on his bridge, now accompanied by a senior commander from the Empire, Admiral Kor. The Admiral's voice was cold as steel when he spoke. "This world will be claimed quickly. Their silence is defiance. We will answer it with fire." The crew cheered, but their voices cracked with unease. The memory of 2 missing probes still hung heavy in the air. None dared mention it while Kor was present. From Earth's perspective, nothing unusual appeared in the sky. Their telescopes detected faint shadows, but no clear image of the fleet. The Ziran stealth fields cloaked their presence, rendering them ghosts in orbit. Humans continued their daily lives below, unaware that hunters watched them from above. Or so the aliens believed. The first scouts drifted closer, sweeping across the outer edge of Earth's orbit. Their sensors mapped every satellite, every station, every orbiting machine. Reports came in swiftly. The humans' technology was weak, uncoordinated, and outdated. "They cannot fight us," one officer said confidently. "Their strongest weapons are nothing compared to our smallest frigates." Still, Admiral Kor's expression was grim. "Do not underestimate them," he warned. "Every species fights hardest when cornered. Even prey will bare its teeth before it dies." The warning was wise, but his words failed to erase the rising arrogance among the younger crew. They laughed at the old broadcast still echoing through space. Songs, news, even old speeches about war and peace. To the Zyrans, it sounded like children shouting into the dark. Then it happened again. Another scout ship broke formation, circling the dark side of the moon. Its sensors flickered, its signal cut, and within minutes it was gone. No wreckage, no distress call, just silence. A second vanished almost the same way, swallowed near the lunar shadows. On the bridge of the flagship, silence fell once more. Admiral Kor's golden eyes narrowed. "The moon is not empty," he said flatly. "Something waits there." Rilar felt a shiver crawl through him. His earlier warnings had been ignored, but now even the Admiral saw the truth. Something was wrong with this system. The prey was not what it seemed. The Admiral ordered a test strike. One of the smaller warships turned its cannons toward a human space station. The station was fragile, a cluster of metal orbiting above the blue planet. With a single shot, it shattered into fire and debris. Human lives scattered into the void, their final screams unheard. The crew cheered, certain that fear would now spread across Earth. But the planet below remained silent. No message came. No plea for mercy. The humans simply watched. Strange, Kor muttered. They do not cry out. They do not beg. He tapped his clawed fingers against the arm of his chair. It is as if they wait. The aliens turned their attention back to the scanners, searching for human fleets, defenses, or any response. They found none. The humans remained quiet, too quiet. Then, without warning, the long-range sensors caught a ripple in space near Mars. At first, it looked like a glitch. But as the data cleared, the bridge filled with uneasy whispers.